Welcome back to another video, guys. It's your boy Wraith Hoops, and today we're going to be talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander possibly being the first player ever to touch $400 million in a contract. Now, we did just see Jaylen Brown get an exuberant amount of money, $304 million by a lot of people's standards, judging from the comments on my last videos, is too much money for somebody that only had 2 All-Star appearances. Now, for me personally, I believe since they made the Porzingis trade, it was one of those things where in order to keep the core members of that team happy, you kind of have to pay the man at least right now. I trust that Brad Stevens can make the adjustments later on, whatever the case may be, if they do feel like he's not going to produce enough on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball to really honor that contract. Now, it's really hard to honor $304 million when nobody's ever earned it before. Again, LeBron, that's over half of LeBron's earnings through the entirety of his career. You're bordering soccer player money. Obviously, Mbappe was recently seen declining an Arabian team that was going to offer him $776 million for 1 year. Right? Now, Jaylen Brown's was obviously for 5, so a little bit of hyperbole when I say we're reaching soccer player money, but it's still substantially higher than anything we've ever seen. And because the teams only have but a maximum of 15 players on them at any point in the season, it's understandable to see why there's just so much money that's going to be going around. And for teams that can use the Supermax, it's going to benefit them a lot in the long run. The next beneficiary of it that we're likely to see is going to be Shai. Now, people feel more comfortable paying Shai more money because he's simply a better player than Jaylen Brown. Obviously, in the 2021-2022 season, he only averaged 24.5 points on 45% shooting from the field and 30% from 3. He also had 5 rebounds and 6 assists to go along with 1.5 steals about. He upped it because, of course, he only played 56 games in the 2021-2022 season. For the 2022-2023 season, the season that passed us by so quickly, honestly, he averaged 31.5 points, shooting 51% from the field, so up 6%, and he shot a respectable, finally, 34.5% from 3. So not terrific sniper numbers from 3, but when you shoot 51% from the field, that means he's taking quality shots and making quality shots, because 31 points in a league, even though it's gearing towards a more offensive system and a more offensive league, it's not easy for just anybody to do. There's not a lot of players in the league that can do that on a consistent basis. And him being that core part of that team coming out of Kentucky, he really put the team on his back last season. And it showed because they did end up making what seemed to be an interesting run to get into the playoffs when a lot of people didn't really have extremely high expectations for that team. Now, he did end up having 5 rebounds and 5.5 assists to go along with 1.6 steals. So overall, slightly better numbers across the board for him. And when people think 30 points, you think top of the league talent. And that's the benefit that he's being given right now. Now, obviously, $400 million is a lot, but the difference between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting paid an enormous paycheck and Jaylen Brown is the fact that Jaylen Brown just simply isn't the alpha on his team. Jason Tatum is. And now people are saying that since they have Porzingis, he's number 3, which arguably could be the case. But this is going to be the year where he has the opportunity to either prove that it was worth it or prove that everybody was right. For Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he just has to continue on the track that he's on. As long as he is the alpha on that team, obviously they have Josh Giddey, they have a bunch of other pieces on that roster, and they're really an unorthodox team. They'll have Chet coming back finally after getting injured before even really touching an NBA court. We're going to see a very interestingly retooled team that's going to be healthier, that's still going to have the likes of Lou Dort and just quality role players. Their young core is honestly phenomenal, arguably on par with teams similar to the Jazz, honestly. And I know a lot of people don't give the Jazz much praise, but to me, it's neck and neck. But for the simple fact that the alpha for this team is doing so well, and it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you kind of have to respect his game. Now, looking at it from the point of view of a money aspect, the cap space is just going to continue to increase with each passing year. And if you have a guy that's already averaging 31.5 points per year, or excuse me, per game, you might not want him doing that consistently over a long stretch of years because you don't want to wear his body out and tear him down that much. But we also need to remember he only played 68 games last season. So a healthy Shai is a winning Shai. And when he can push the team to that next level, the other young guys that are around him don't have the responsibility of being the 1B to his 1A. They can be just quality role players that chip in when they're required to and have their spot games where they explode out. And that's going to be a very important thing for them coming forward, because do I expect them to be a contender this coming year? No, of course not. But we should hold them to, at the very least, being in the playoffs, because obviously they managed to make to surprise us last season. So this season we're looking for an improvement, and having Chet back, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, we know he has a decent skill set, but defensively, being able to alter shots at the rim and being able to force people to take shots that they don't want to take, it's going to look very good for them on paper. It's just really up to Shai to take that next step and continue his progress and lead this team to make that contract worth it. Now, Sam Quinn actually broke it down a little bit further so we could get some specifics on why he would be that first player to get to the $400 million mark. And a lot of people seem to think that teams can just, at this point, pay players whatever in the world they want to pay them as long as the team in the league feels like it makes sense. And that's just quite not the truth. The simple fact of the matter is, it's all negotiated based on the guidelines stipulated by the collective bargaining agreement that occasionally gets changed and was most recently changed and saw teams be heavily affected by the second apron. Now, a rookie extension can only promise 25% of the salary cap, which is a significant amount of money, don't get me wrong, but it could be extended to 30% depending on All-NBA nominations, MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year awards, and so on and so forth. Players that have spent 7 to 9 years in the league are eligible for the 30% of the salary cap, with the potential of it being extended to 35%. And that's where it really gets interesting. Now, obviously, the salary cap is already a significant amount of money, but at this point in time, it's expected to increase. It's been capped at 10% of growth every single year. Now, under the assumption that the league does increase by exactly 10% every single year, not a percentage lower, the salary cap would be roughly $199 million going into the 27-28 season. Now, that's important because that means that a player could sign for roughly $404 million for a 5-year contract, which would also mean that they're eligible for $67 million in that first year, with an 8% raise every year after that. Because of this, so long as these numbers stay true and the league does indeed have their salary caps increase by exactly 10% every single year, and it remains profitable, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a player that is most likely to be affected by this at that particular year in time. And considering the fact that he does look like he's the real deal, he's been playing extremely effectively, averaging 31.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, and a steal and a half a game. He's been truly a two-way master this past year, and everybody has been thoroughly impressed with his ability to just not only get it done on the offensive side of the ball, shooting above 50% from the field, but also being able to lock in on defense and truly give the other team's best players a hard time. Now, of course, that's youth speaking to a certain extent, because he just has the ability to continue to chase people that older players in the league just don't have anymore. But put simply, he's just that guy. And when you're that guy and the money's there, the teams have to pay you. We just saw Jaylen Brown get a bag that a lot of people don't agree with, but he played well enough to warrant that. And I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to warrant the same ability, but it will be less criticized in my eyes because he is that alpha dog for the Oklahoma City Thunder. With that being said, thank you for tuning in for another video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this one. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me if you think he will be. Tell me if you think he deserves the money. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're going to go ahead and set the upload schedule to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays every week with shorts in between. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.